Told you I'd get there. Nearly got it done. So, shotguns. Best in slot. Let's crack on with it, shall we? Right, first off, this one's going to be slightly longer just because there's not really enough to make 2 videos out of it, so you're just going to get a slightly longer 1 video. And secondly, there were a few problems with this for 2 reasons. One, any DPS build, put a shotgun on and shotguns just do immense damage. Aside from a few things like Nemesis, Regulus, etc, etc, shotguns are just point blank the highest DPS in the game. So when it comes to best in shot shotgun, for the general purposes of what you would really use or play, doesn't matter, just put a shotgun on, you're fine. However, I needed to get a little bit of help with this one, and Hutchler coming in Clutchler really saved my bacon on this one. Second one being, shotguns come in 2 varieties really. You've got Headhunter or just straight DPS, keep shooting till they die. With this, it's kind of unfair to compare them in terms of DPS. Obviously the DPS builds are going to have higher DPS, but the Headhunter builds are going to just be one-shotting everything, point in case background footage. So, I will be showing their DPS, but I won't be comparing their DPS just because it's kind of very unfair. Depending on whether you want to go DPS or Headhunter, different shotguns will be better at this. So we're just going to crack on with the builds. Just quickly though, before we do that, your DPS, your best combo, is just going to involve a Super 90 or a Scorpio. Super 90 will point blank just do more DPS. However, if you want a bit of survivability, Scorpio with its CC comes in clutch. It's not that much of a DPS drop, but Super 90 is higher. And for Headhunter builds, you want the M870. It doesn't really matter what one, and obviously Chainkiller. That's basically your build. All you need to do from here is get to 150% headshot damage and you're away. So when it comes to shotguns, easy way to tell what one's what. If it's got a Scorpio or a Super 90, it's a DPS. If it's got an M870 and a Chainkiller, it's Headhunter. Chainkiller obviously, duh. Right, first one's a bit iffy. We're rocking 185% headshot damage. However, this build doubles up as high-end best in slot for rifle, MMR, as well as pistol. It is mostly a pistol build. It's pretty much the meta high-end Regulus build. As you can see, Punch Drunk, Gift, Chainkiller, Contractors, Fox, Dodge City holster. It can work with shotguns, and in terms of high output for high-end, this is basically your only option. But then at the same time, put shotgun on anything and you're away. Typically with shotguns, the gear sets are just generally better overall for shotguns in terms of best in slot. Now for the damage, I've not calculated in Headhunter because I'm not too confident with doing it. So without stacks, all 8 pellets hitting the head, you're going to be doing about 9.1 million damage to about 9.2. That's one shot. It can go higher depending on what buffs and other things you have in play, as well as what specialization you're running. Up next we have a weird one. I honestly didn't know that this existed. 58 crit chance, 216 crit damage, 4-piece Negotiators with Seska and Grupo, Obliterate, Vigilance and a Marine Super 90. Apparently this was the meta speedrunning tactic for League events before things like Lady Death. You just put one shot into everything and Negotiators just takes care of the rest. Yeah. And then adding in Pummel on a Marine Super 90, you get some serious DPS and you can just burn your way through literally everything. Now weirdly, this build doesn't actually seem to be getting used that much anymore. However, I did have a bit of a play around with it, and honestly it's kind of dumb. I kind of wish I recorded it just so I can show you it. But yeah, literally you just put one shot into literally everything, and if it stays alive, that's fine. Go to the next one. When you shoot, the crit that you get from the next one will kill the first one, and then you just rinse and repeat. You don't actually need to stand there and kill individual targets. Just boom, shoot guy 1, then shoot guy 2. Guy 1 should die. If not, by the time you shoot guy 3, guy 1 and guy 2 have died, and you just keep moving. Kind of fun. Now, if you've never seen a shotgun DPS calculator before, this is kind of ridiculous considering the average AR build only really gets to about 12 mil. This is single target wise, which is all this is calculated, is pretty weak. Most shotgun builds will get up to about 23, 25 in terms of DPS. This is still rocking 17, which is still like a good 30% higher than any AR build. Now we know why shotguns are dumb. Put it on literally anything and you're fine. Next we have the absolute king DPS, 56 crit chance, 118 crit damage with Super 90, 127 with Scorpio. This thing has like world record after world record. It's dumb. It's also the top contender build for Manning National Zoo on Legendary. It's beyond easy to get your striker stacks, and it's even easier to maintain them. In terms of DPS, the Super 90 will be doing about 1.5 million more in DPS. However, with this style of build, the idea is to get up close and personal with a shotgun and you're running 6 red. You will need some form of survivability, especially on Legendary. So Scorpio here is considered to be better in slot, simply just because it adds C to the actual equation. Still though, we are rocking 23 to 25 million DPS. Yeah, it's a little bit silly just how powerful this is. If you want to actually see this in action, shameless shout out really, find Rambob on Twitch or Merc from Medkit clan. These two people, well, they're groups, I'm not sure what clan Rambob is in, but Rambob and his team and Merc and his team are in a little bit of a war at the moment, trying to get the best time on Manning National Zoo Legendary. You will see this build in action on repeat, and yeah, they do like 1.6 mil a pellet, and yeah, chungers vaporize, ads just disappear. It's mind-boggling and rather beautiful to watch, but the power of that build cannot be understated. It is ridiculous. Up next we have a surprise contender, 150% headshot. We're running Memento, and if you put Technician as your specialization, you can get a tier 3 shield. This build is surprisingly tanky. 4-piece Hunter's Fury, Chain Killer, Memento. I've just put the MH70 Express in. What MH70 you use actually really doesn't matter. Just make sure you get over 150% headshot. Some of the MH70s will only have a headshot attachment on the sight. Some will have it on the magazine. You just need to check what one would go where. I believe the more favourable one is to go with the one that has the 5% headshot on the magazine, simply because that means you can put more weapon handling onto it, which helps tighten the reticule as well as increases the potential reload. Although this isn't really a requirement, because you're running pummel, when you do have to reload, it can be an absolute ball ache. Now the caveat to this build, because I know a lot of people are going to go, "Oh, Memento," and flock to it, is you are just at the bare minimum. You are at 150% headshot damage. In order to get this build to be really, really worthwhile, you really should, it's the only build I would actually really recommend, make sure you get your expertise up on your weapons. It will struggle getting and building those headhunter stacks unless everything is red or you're playing on hard. If you're playing on heroic or wanting to take this to legendary, you really should have expertise 20 minimum, bearing in mind the maximum is 21 on every weapon, just because the damage, although the survivability is very good, the damage is lacking and eventually you will get burned down. It is a very powerful build and it will serve you well. However, in terms of that one-shot capability, we have this. This is essentially the exact same build, but we're just going to run a Providence backpack. I've just put the gift in. It's 175% headshot. We get 25% total weapon damage. The core mechanic of the build is the exact same. However, where people are going to go, oh, but Memento gave me more survivability, this actually gives you more. Considering the simple fact of, with the Memento build, you have to take 2-3 shots to start building stacks. With this, it's just one. You put one bullet in, problem solved. You have your stacks. From now on, you're a one-shot monster. You're going to be CCing everything and gaining 20% armor on kill. How long does it take for you to fire one bullet? There's 20% of your armor back. It is absolutely nuts. The caveat to both of these builds is you are going to want to take a rifle, or I would suggest Regulus. You're going to want something to give you a range option. If you do get pinned down and all you've got is a shotgun, you are stuck. Take a ranged option with you. A rifle, a decent pistol, anything really, just so you can get a little bit of extra damage out when you need it. There's the problem with the range. So in terms of damage, we've got the Headhunter's Fury Memento build at the top, and then the Headhunter's Fury Max, I've called it, with a Providence backpack at the bottom. You will do on average 2 to 3 million more damage per shot, and again, this isn't without calculating in Headhunters. So the overall damage without Memento is going to be greater, and once you get into the swing of things, it's a bit of a tricky build to get used to, playing the range option, especially when there's a damn Wally running around like an idiot and freestyling. It can be jarring to get used to, but once you've got it, it's really easy. It trivializes the game, and the overall effect of it is just mostly, as long as it's not a Wally being a freestyling prick, is just one shot literally everything. So just to finish this off, so we can see here the high-end Headhunters was 9.1 million on average without Headhunter stacks taken into account. The Negotiators Super 90 is 15.1. The Super 90 with Strikers is 25.3. Scorpio with Strikers is 23.8 but offers more survivability. Headhunter's Fury with Memento is 9.9, and then Headhunter's Fury with a Providence backpack and Vigilance is 11.7. Now these numbers are completely absurd. If I've got the HH on the right hand side, that's essentially the lowest damage that you can do per shot. If it's DPS, that's the maximum amount of DPS that you can get for single target. So Negotiators can only go up, considering you can hit up to 3 targets simultaneously. Strikers DPS, okay, yeah, that's like the maximum you'd really be able to get, like 225 to 29, depending if you're getting headshots or not. And then with Scorpio, 23 to 27. However, that level of DPS is enough to kill a Chunga in like 4 shots on Legendary. So even if it does go down a little bit, who actually cares, considering even the top tier AR builds are barely even half that at their maximum. Pummel is categorically pretty much the only talent you really should run on a shotgun, unless it's the double barrels. I'm pumped up, I'm pretty sure is best in slot for them, although Pummel will still work. Difference being, if you play correctly with things like the M870 with Pummel, you never actually have to reload, whereas with a double barrel you obviously will. Now, just for a closing statement, I wish to reiterate that although these are best in slot on a shotgun build, it's really not even worth crying over unless you're trying to speedrun legendary missions going for the maximum potential damage to ensure that you one-shot everything. Shotguns will do an immense amount of DPS regardless. For example, a Super 90 at Expertise 20 with no build, just the weapon, will do half of the DPS as a FAMAS will on a fully optimized high-end build, glass cannon, vigilance, the lot. Anyway, have fun, good luck, don't die, it's bad for the health.